75 feet of wood frame construction for apartment buildings. And the change defined in the code would essentially create, it would essentially eliminate that possibility for buildings between 55 and 75 feet. Most of these buildings go to 74 foot 11 inches because it's cost effective to build them that way. So that was the most impactful, but I don't think that would really be germane to the area since we're not building a lot of high rises at the moment. So I don't think that would be the end of the world. The biggest and most consistent change throughout the codes that I saw was basically just the incorporation of the U codes, the Uniform Mechanical Code and the Uniform Plumbing Code, and those references integrating them with the I codes, which is the International Building Code Standards. The UMC and the IMC are very similar. The UPC and the IPC differ greatly, and that's the plumbing code. And the biggest differentiation between those two codes is the UPC is very strict on their venting requirements. Almost
and that's
every
the unified.
yes, that's the Uniform Plumbing Code versus the
Unified,
International
yeah.
Plumbing Code. So the Uniform Plumbing Code, their venting requirements are much more strict. So essentially, you have to almost individually vent every drainage fixture unit that you apply. So cost-wise, it all kind of shakes out between the UMC, the IMC, the IPC, and the UPC. So there's really not a lot of difference as far as the cost of construction, and it's just really a design parameter that people need to follow. So, but I think the biggest point to kind of reviewing those codes and then reviewing the City of Ely's codes and White Pine County's codes is right now under the county we're technically under like the 2008 IRC, the 2020 NEC based on the state statute that the county ordinance cites for automatic adoption. We're under the latest version, which I believe is the 2018 UPC and the 2018 IPC or UPC and UMC. And then in the city, they're under the 2018 codes almost exclusively, except for the NEC, which is the 2011. Now the codes are listed on the county side and the city side as basically what the city has adopted. But right now I'm really looking at about 7 different code provisions that I need to enforce depending on where I'm at, within the county or the city. So it's kind of, as far as I'm concerned, the easiest thing for development is that constant expectation to set for people who are gonna come in and do some development. They don't want, to try to find all these different rules and requirements. Just, to me, it doesn't matter what code we're under, it's just a matter of promoting consistency.
Yeah.
The only concern that I had was when you mentioned that this county, and you know this probably better than I do, is that some of those codes you says were functioning under the 2018, but I don't know, is that automatically adopted?
Correct. So
Okay.
the county ordinances in reference to both to the electric code, the plumbing code, and the chemical
We're getting
code.
a little bit off topic of
Sorry.
the actual
Okay.
agenda item here,
Sorry,
so
sorry.
if we can bring it back.
Yeah, I think the agenda item has us for a discussion, for an update to see what direction we'd like to go as a commission. Is that right?
Okay, with that said, the thought is getting both the county and the city to adopt this organization's codes that they have gone through, that this group had gone through, and that would bring us up to date with everything. And then also, the city, at least at that meeting, had talked about adopting theirs. So I think if we go ahead and adopt it, for us, that brings everything up to date. And I think that it would be good for us to go ahead and apply for that membership to be part of that program. And then as we move along, we can stay in touch with any changes that are going on and be part of that to know what's going on. So.
We looked at, and I'm just being upfront with you, okay? We looked at, because of some of the issues, possibly going out and maybe finding us a contract building inspector. I don't feel, and I'm just saying what I feel personally, I don't feel that we should just shut you down. We should give you the opportunity. We have an agreement with the city right now, and we want to leave that option open, but I think we also want to welcome you aboard because we have a lot of building and inspections going on. You sound like you're very knowledgeable about all the updates, but we also as a county have had some issues in the past. And is it more beneficial for us to contract building inspection service, or is it beneficial for us to stay on with the city agreement? Is you guys in agreement with that?
I think it's good to give Craig a shot. He seems very knowledgeable, and I think coming from the outside and having these fresh perspectives, and if we can get him so he knows that, get on the same playing field with the code and stuff, I think that's the best route to go. And then, adjust if necessary moving forward, but that's what it sounds, to me, is what, just my initial thoughts on all this.
Yeah, that was our, there were many reasons, but I think a large reason for going, contract was to get an outside perspective, an objective person coming in, because the codes, all that stuff is a tangled knot that we can deal with. The bigger issue that I'm concerned about, I'm not hurling accusations, I'm just looking forward. What I don't wanna see is somebody with an ego, screwing up our progress because they wanna shut jobs down because they think that they're in charge. So I wanna see people who are gonna be team players, not giving sweetheart deals to anybody, we don't want an unsafe situation, but I don't want to hear wonderful people that are great parts of this community like Silver Lion coming to me and talking to me about how they can't move forward because of really dumb things that are being said and done to them. So like, we wanna just be reasonable, I want a human being in there that's gonna do this right, so.
Anyone else? Okay.
So, Lori, do you just wanna bring that back next meeting, work with James and Craig to get that, so we can adopt that, if that's, kinda sounds like that's the
Yeah,
direction?
and I don't know, I haven't looked at the interlocal agreement in quite a while, so I don't know if we need another set of fresh eyes on that.
I can look at that. I mean, it's currently in place, so we don't have to necessarily take action just to maintain the status quo. The main thing,
I was talking about the code, not the
so,
agreement.
yeah, on the code side, you can take action to give direction, but we can't adopt a code in this
Right.
agenda item.
Right.
So if the board has a preference on a direction to go and pursue, to bring back an agenda item to adopt a uniform code, then we can do that today. I'm splitting hairs, I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah, and some of that would come, yeah, and we need Craig to do that. And personally, I'm thrilled to death that he took the step. He was
Absolutely.
the one that talked about coming and introducing himself, and I appreciate that. So,
Absolutely.
that said, however you think we ought to go about doing that is,
So we're just giving direction on how we wanna move forward with specific to that.
You could do that, or what maybe we do is, we have a conversation about what you think would be the best thing to present for adoption, and then we can put that on a future agenda.
there we go.
Just leave it
And
at that.
maybe we'll do
Yeah.
that. and
I
see
think
what we
that's
decide.
the best plan, is to get his input and get us mirrored so that we're dealing with one set of codes across the board. The one thing I do wanna see us be cautious with, I don't know, years ago, when the push was to go from the uniform to the IBC, one of the concerns that was brought as an argument to more strictly follow the IBC was that finance companies, banks, that were going to demand those codes be met before they would finance. So I don't wanna see us adjust our standards to the point that we have finance companies that aren't interested in coming in and financing these buildings for businesses. We tell them they're fine, but then I go to resell it, and the guy that goes to buy it can't get it financed. I think that's something we've gotta be careful of, is that we are at least meeting a standard that will allow that to pass on.
Well, and correct, Lori, isn't this code in Story County?
Yes, there's,
So the
you-
largest industrial park in the world. You should,
Yeah. Yeah.
well, hopefully it would work.
Yeah, they participated in pulling everything together, and they were part of it, sitting down and going through stuff.
Just for a point of clarification, the amendments proposed by the Northern Nevada Building Officials Association, those are germane to different sets of codes, and they basically tie the references together. So you would have to adopt either the IPC or the UPC, and you could adopt the Northern Nevada amendments with those.
Yeah,
But you would have to adopt both of those things separately in order to, kind of update the statutory
Exactly.
code cycle.
so we'll come back.
So James, your recommendation is just to leave this as an update?
Yeah, we'll take-
Okay,
Great.
so if that's okay with the commission, we're gonna leave that as an update, and we're gonna, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Craig, appreciate your help,
Great
thank you.
presentation, and we are now gonna go back to our 9:30 timed item, get back on task. So, page 2, on item B, it's a 9:30, it's a proposed ordinances 525 and 526. This is a public hearing, discussion for possible action. The White Pine County Board of